Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the February 4th, 2021 meeting of the Columbia County Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Gentlemen, if I could ask you to remove your caps while we're conducting business, I'd appreciate it. And if you'd stand with us, Commissioner Wilder will lead us in our invocation, and Commissioner Henderson will lead us in the pledge.
All about with us. Dear Lord, we want to thank you again for yet another wonderful day. We want to thank you for all the many blessings you bestow upon us, on this community, on all of us here. We ask that you look over us as we leave the meeting tonight and give us safe travels home. We ask that you look over our proceedings tonight and guide us and to help us to find the right decision to use our word. All these things in Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. And if I could please remind you to silence your cell phones during the meeting. We do have 4 or 5 commissioners present tonight. Commissioner Futch is in quarantine. He's got a couple family members that have been positively diagnosed with COVID, so we'll miss him tonight. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to review the minutes from the January 21st meeting. If there are no changes, amendments, or additions, I'd like a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the minutes from January 21 passes 4-0. Gentlemen, you've also had a chance to review the agenda for this evening. If there are no additions or changes or deletions, I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve the agenda as submitted passes 4-0. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. Decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on February 16th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in this same room. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Ms. Kara Harden, and she'll give you a request to speak form. In our meeting tonight, we're not that formal. If you have something that you would like us to review or to receive during our public hearing phase of the meeting, raise your hand. We'll ask you to step up to the microphone and take 3 to 5 minutes to give us your information, your opinion, or just facts that you'd like us to have. There will be a second time that you are able to come up, and if you'd like to speak on something other than something on the agenda, we do have a public comment section at the end of the meeting. That being said, we'll move into our first order of business. Mr. Butler, massage operator's license for Bliss & Company.
This is a request for a massage operator's license by Takia Browning for Bliss & Co. LLC, located at 4573 Cox Road, Suite A, for on-premise mobile massage. She meets all requirements. Staff recommends approval.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions of staff? If not, I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the massage operator's license for Bliss & Company, LLC.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 4-0. Ms. Montgomery, we've got provisional home occupation for Clifford Keith Schomber.
Yes, sir. This is a provisional home occupation at 2900 Old Thompson Road. It's currently zoned RA Residential Agricultural. This property is located off Dozier Road, kind of north of Appling, and you can see everything around it is also zoned RA with a handful of S1s in the area. This is the aerial of the site. The existing house here is approximately 800 square feet. The shop that would be used for the business is approximately 600 square feet. That is greater than the 50% allowed in our code. However, the applicant has indicated the shop is not solely used for the woodworking purpose, but also used for personal storage, repair of lawnmowers, things like that. He's estimated it's about 50% of the shop space that would be used for the woodworking business. So that's about 300 square feet. That does meet the requirements for a provisional home occupation to be less than 50% of the square footage of the house. Normal concerns with woodworking would be usually noise and how scrap material is disposed of. As far as noise goes, on a very large lot, largely wooded lot around it. He's several hundred feet from any other houses in the area, so there should be enough buffer to mitigate any noise concerns. He's indicated that scrap is burned as kindling for campfires, so there's very little concern on that side. He is planning to sell these items through a consignment shop, so there won't be any traffic to this site as part of the business. He'll be taking everything off-site for sales. With those provisions, staff is recommending approval of the provisional home occupation.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions of staff? Okay, this is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the provisional home occupation for Clifford Keith Schomburg.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 4-0. Ms. Neal, temporary use authorization.
Yes, sir. This is a request for temporary use authorization at 6872 Cottonwood Drive on 4.25 acres, currently zoned RA, residential agricultural. It shows the location of the site off Old Thompson and Cottonwood Drive. The zoning of the site, currently zoned RA. The site plan, this is the location that they're planning to put the travel trailer, and this is where the house is underneath the address point. And this shows the renovations that they're planning to do on the house. They're needing to move out so that they can do the complete renovations. It shows both the elevations, front and rear. And they're just requesting them for the travel trailer during the time that they're completing the residence portion of it. And staff recommends approval.
Gentlemen, any questions, staff? This is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the temporary use authorization for 6872 Cottonwood Drive.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Question. Ms. Neal, is there a time frame on this?
They are expected to be complete.
Okay.
Already have house.
And the authorization is limited to a year.
Motion and second still hold? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? To approve carries 4-0. Ms. Montgomery, preliminary plat for Wrights Farm, Section 2.
Yes, sir. This is the preliminary plat for Section 2 of Wrights Farm, which is planned unit development located off Wrightsboro Road. It's on the south side of Wrightsboro Road at Reynolds Road. And this is the section we're looking at tonight, kind of towards the middle of the property. This section includes 79 single-family lots with a minimum lot size of 6,750 square feet, which meets the required minimum for the PUD. The average lot size is 8,647 square feet. Front setbacks are 29 feet from the back of curb due to water utility concerns, and side setbacks are a minimum of 7.5 feet, and with rear setbacks a minimum of 10. This section does include several of the 50-foot lots for this development. Under their zoning, the 50-foot lots were required to be either alley-loaded or have slide-by driveways. Since there are no alleys present in this section, those lots will all be required to slide-by driveways. Sidewalks are provided on at least one side of the roads, and 1.74 acres of open space is provided in this section. There is a 50-foot buffer against Wrightsboro Road and a buffer against Kingston at the back. Both of these have to be replanted. This was an agricultural property. It's largely cleared field, so the buffers don't exist in this case. They will have to plant them back as part of the development. Staff is recommending approval.
Gentlemen, any questions, staff? On the buffer, will we have a minimum size that the trees will have to be? I know we'll have a depth, but we're not going to have a bunch of 3-foot trees planted there, are we?
So they're largely evergreen trees that they plant as part of a buffer, so they're usually done by container gallon size is what they specify with the planting plan. That's been reviewed with the preliminary plat and approved.
All right. That being said, gentlemen, we need a motion for approval. This is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Wrights Farm, Section 2.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? To approve carries 4-0. Ms. Montgomery, will stay with you. Final plat for Bartram Trail, Section 10, Phase Bravo.
Yes, sir. This is a final plat for 15 lots in Bartram Trail. This is also a planned unit development. This is the location for this portion of the development towards the back of Bartram Trail. Again, currently part of the Bartram Trail PUD. This final plat is for 15 single-family lots with a minimum lot size of 18,355 square feet and an average lot size just over 25,000 square feet. This section basically follows R2 requirements from county code, so setbacks are a minimum of 30 feet from the right-of-way and 10 feet from the side and rear property lines. Sidewalks are provided on both sides of the road, and 2.38 acres of open space is provided in this section. And this is what the existing site looks like. And staff is recommending approval.
Gentlemen, any questions of staff? Okay, well, this is not a public hearing, and I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for final plat for Bartram Trail, Section 10, excuse me, Phase B.
You have a
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Approve carries 4-0. Ms. Montgomery will stay with you, a final plat for Connell Farms.
Yes, sir, this is for 26 lots in the residential agricultural district out off Wrightsboro Road. This property is located on the south side of Wrightsboro Road and is zoned RA, as is most of the surrounding property. This final plat includes 26 large lots with a minimum lot size of 5 acres. This was originally required as the road was private and was to remain unpaved. They had submitted it as a gravel road. They have actually paved that road. It is still a private road, and the minimum lot size is still 5 acres for this plat. The lots are served by septic systems but do have public water. They have identified minimum front setbacks of 100 feet from the right-of-way, minimum of 10 feet from side property lines, and minimum of 25 feet from the rear property lines. Several of the radial lots do have frontages less than the 1/3 reduction allowed. Those were approved by the county engineer prior to the preliminary plat approval, so that does carry over to this final plat. With that approval, the lots meet all the requirements of the RA zoning district, and staff recommends approval.
Ms. Montgomery, is the developer's intent to instead of maintaining a private road, to turn this road over to the county at some point?
Not to my knowledge.
What would the minimums need to be for them to be able to do that?
They would have to have constructed this road to county standards, so the width, the base material, the pavement section, the right-of-way, all of that would have to meet county code for them to turn it over.
Do we know if they accomplished that and what they presented to us?
I do not, honestly.
And would it also require curb and gutter to turn it over to the county?
Not necessarily an RA, since
Not
this is
because
a
of the
large
zone.
lot subdivision, but it would have to meet all the other requirements from the subdivision and road construction codes.
Okay. If somebody, after the fact, wants to try to turn something over to the county, what's the process for inspection before the county accepts it?
They've got to petitions the county engineer, and Roads and Bridges most likely would be the agency under the county engineer to go out and confirm that what was originally constructed meets current standards. If there's any improvements that need to be done, then obviously that would be a requirement prior to consideration of any acceptance. Most likely, if they didn't build it initially to county standards, that conversation is going to end pretty quickly. In this instance, that's a fairly significant overhaul to bring it up to county standards if it wasn't originally done so. And then again, if right-of-way is not sufficient and all of that, now you're talking however many lot frontages in there to acquire additional right-of-way, et cetera, et cetera.
So they proposed 20 feet initially, and we'd have to have, what, 24, 22 on a width? I think it's 24.
I
And neither here nor there, I just,
think it's 24.
want to throw this out for discussion, because I would imagine a number of y'all have never been in a meeting where we've talked about a private road converting to a public road, or the county taking over the maintenance of that road. Just
Well,
want to make sure we're,
and more often than not, what happens is the lots get developed, the homeowners association assumes maintenance and responsibility, and then finds out when the road starts to degrade that those repair costs are significant, as
Right.
you would expect, and that's when that door usually gets knocked on, and the county engineer has to answer it and says, check your plat, and no, we're not interested. So
And the odds are that it probably wouldn't be.
right,
wouldn't be tomorrow or the next day, it'd be a number of years down the road.
5 or 10 years.
And then that brings up another question.
Large lot world.
Yeah, so we're looking at, and Danielle's right, it's either gonna be 20 or 22.
Okay,
Depending on how we classified that in large lot or rural is the other option, so
Commissioner Wilder.
they're in the neighborhood at least on that.
And I don't recall, was there gonna be an HOA associated with these?
There has to be.
Right, there's required to be with the private road.
Okay,
Because this is ultimately part of Greenpoint, isn't it?
This is not, no.
This is outside Greenpoint?
Yep.
Yep, we could have someone across the street. Yes, sir.
The problem usually rises in that people blindly buy and don't research it. And then it's like you said, a year, 2 or 3 or 4 down the road, uh-oh.
Yeah, usually
That's common.
once something fails in there, that's when
Yep.
the realization starts to creep in.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, this is not a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the final plat for Connell Farms off Wrightsboro Road.
There a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Approved, passes 4-0. Let's enter into our public hearing portion of the meeting. Ms. Mystery, file RZ 210201.
Yes, so this is a rezoning, and the location is 5959 Boulder Court on 5.5 acres, and the current zoning is RA Residential Agricultural, and the existing use is a single-family detached home, and the request is for S1 special zoning to add a dog boarding business on the existing property. Here is the location, and you can see that it's off Intermediate Road and Boulder Court. This is the surrounding zoning. It's RA. There is a corner on Wrightsboro Road here, C1, where the Dollar General store was built in 2019. There's a couple of S1 parcels up here for a church and a cell tower. Here's a close-up of the aerial that shows the parcel involved. The house is pretty central to the site, and the applicants are intending to stay on the property. Their plan is to convert the garage, which is there, for the dog boarding business, and they want to start off with some modifications to the inside that would allow 5 dogs, and then they would go to a maximum of 20 as per their narrative. The kennel will operate on a 24/7 basis, but the drop-off and pickup will be limited to Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The garage is about 800 square feet, and that would be the place for the dog boarding. They have marked in the yellow box there, the leashed walking area, which is away from the neighboring properties. And then the red line is a small fenced area that would have next to the garage building. Here you can see the site photos from Boulder Court and Intermediate Road. The site is heavily wooded, and they plan to keep the existing character of the RA neighborhood. They will not encroach on 60 foot of the perimeter buffer. If they do any additions with the residents, they will follow the RA codes and get building permits. It is in the rural neighborhoods part of the county, where it's mostly large lot subdivisions. It does allow for some civic uses and schools, churches, things like that. And the application is for S1 zoning for a dog boarding business, and staff recommends approval.
Gentlemen, any questions, of staff? This is a public hearing. Is the applicant here? Yes. Would y'all like to come forward and give us any additional information you'd like us to consider? Please give us your name and home address. Now, if you don't mind, wait till you get to the microphone. We record these proceedings, so I want to make sure the ladies can hear you to transcribe it.
Yes, my name is Ryan Wilson, live at 5959 Boulder Court. Recently moved there. One of the reasons we selected this property is because of the number of outbuildings and the size of the property we thought would be good for this business plan. We do have considerations. We know this is a quiet neighborhood. Because we're not modifying or building an additional building, we do plan to heavily insulate the building to deaden any sound that the animals may make. We plan on controlling the animals as far as monitoring the noise levels inside the building. Additionally, when the animals are outside, they're going to be monitored to ensure that they don't create any additional noise. They can't get free. not only will we have an interior fence, but the majority of the property is fenced as well. The only portion that's not fenced in is the north portion, which is heavily wooded and very brushy. So it would prevent any animal from escaping up to the north. In addition to all that, because of the nature of the business, we do not believe there's going to be heavy traffic in and out of the area. Maybe 1 or 2 vehicles per day just dropping off, picking up animals. Reiterate that we're going to start small, kind of see how things work out in the beginning. We're thinking maybe 1 to 5 animals initially is going to be the max that we're going to have. And then if business works out well, we may expand above and beyond that. During this, we ask if any of neighbors that may be here tonight have any issues as the business goes on, please address them with us, and we will address any concerns and make modifications as needed. If we do expand, we'll, of course, get the necessary permits, everything above and beyond.
If you expand, are you going to add on to the existing structure? Is that what you mean, expand, or just expand on the interior of the existing structure?
We haven't really thought about expansion, in the near future. We thought that if this does become a larger business, we would then have to go back through this process and try to do above and beyond what we're doing
Like
now.
adding on to the garage where you're in now, or would you try to fit all 20 animals inside that garage?
Oh, for the 20 animals, we think there's adequate room now inside that garage building, how it is now. We've got some drawings that weren't submitted with this plan, but we've got some drawings that we've been sharing internal as a family of how to best arrange kennel partitions within the building. And we think that 20 animals will fit in there pretty well. We're targeting mostly smaller animals, but we will have some visions for some larger animals if necessary. So we believe it can all fit within that building.
So even with 5, you would not be attached from this existing building to a septic tank?
No, sir. So my wife has experience as a veterinary assistant. She's been doing that for past, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years.
That was going to be my next question, if you had any experience.
How are you gonna keep it clean without it being a septic system, is my question, especially when you get up above 5.
Yeah, so her experience has been actually dealing with a large number of animals and some of the boarding she's done in these, in her roles as a veterinary assistant. So what they've done in those clinics is, they've basically manually cleaned, hand mop, whatever they need to do. So any, we'll call it animal debris that's left behind, she will pick up, she will bag, and she will dispose of in the garbage. And then as far as cleaning and things like that, it's just going to be some general mopping and cleanup, wipe things up and dispose.
Mr. Sterling, these new vet offices that are popping up everywhere, with their boarding facility, aren't you making them put them on septic tank?
Most of the kennel operations, the commercial operations, the vets, and those are gonna be commercial buildings and will have to have water and some sort of septic or sewer system connections, but that's because it's a commercial building of sorts. I think
My
I haven't been
question,
directly involved insofar that with all the discussions, but it sounds like they've had the health department look into this and provide some feedback as well.
my question is if, take the vet office that was just built on West Road, I know they made it to a septic, some type of a septic system.
Some sort of sewer system.
Right. And we're doing this one without, and that bothers me.
What's the threshold before they'd have to be on some kind of a waste disposal system? 20, above 20?
That's
Or is that
the health
subject-
department.
That's
that
the
would
health
be able-
department's call?
Yeah, the health department would be the one to make that call, I would think. And there's not any specific county ordinance requirement that says, after so many flushes or so many animals or so many such and such, you need their septic or a system, municipal system connection.
I'd like to circle, excuse me, I'd like to circle back. You'd answered one of my questions with your wife's experience in vet hospitals. You said you just moved here. Where you moved from, did you have a business like this there?
No, sir, we didn't. We actually, we lived in the area before, but the property we were on previously, we would have had to build an additional building, and costs and process associated with that was a little bit more. Decided to look elsewhere.
So you haven't run this type of business before, so this is a new venture for you, with the experience that your wife brings in from working at the veterinary hospitals.
Yes, sir, that's true, although I did grow up on hog farms, so.
Okay.
Little bit
Well, I just want to add that, this is a long time ago, but in high school, I worked at a vet hospital. One of my jobs every afternoon was to clean the kennels. Each kennel had a drain in it. We certainly couldn't mop those floors. I mean, those dogs made such a mess that a mop wouldn't do it justice. We had to hose it down. And so I feel like I'm a little concerned about not being able to go a little bit further with the cleaning process. I think I think up front, it might be okay, but long-term, I would have some concern about not properly moving that waste. The solid waste is not an issue. It's the liquid waste that I'm concerned with.
And most of the kennels do have an outside area as well as inside. They have a run that's to the back of each.
Yeah.
My other concern is we're open zoning if we say we're gonna let you go 5 to 20. And then who's gonna count? One day you have 16 dogs, let's say. To me, that's just too broad based for me to be satisfied with. And nothing personal against you, it's just open zoning in my opinion.
Understand, sir, and the reason we said that is because we are, trying to be upfront with everything. We plan on starting small, so
Understand that.
if we had to rewrite the narrative, we could say a maximum of 20, if that would be sufficient. We think that's as far as we're going to be able to go. If I can circle back to your other question, we did talk to the health department. One of the criteria that they said to us as far as putting in a septic tank, comparing us with other businesses, was that they also had additional employees. The example that they gave us had 5 employees, provide bathroom facilities. It's going to be a family business. Those facilities were
So you have a septic tank for your home
Yes.
on the site. I don't know anything about septic. Please forgive me. Yeah, okay, well, I'll check in with you in a second.
I live with one.
Well, is there, I
City
mean,
dwelling.
what's the process of attaching barn to the septic tank?
Well, sir, let me address that without getting anybody else involved. Where our septic tank is right now, there's kind of a concrete patio built over the top of it, so I don't think that would be something that we could do.
That's not good to start with.
It's accessible. We actually had the septic tank pumped whenever we moved into the house. However, they had to slightly dig under the porch to get to the access port. So we are able to pump it and do maintenance on the septic tank itself. However, if we had issues with the plumbing, it would probably be a tunnel under the house or just abandon that system.
So you live on a slab house?
Yes.
Are y'all gonna be in the grooming business as well?
No, sir.
You mentioned family. So you got kids that are gonna be involved with this?
It's primarily going to be my wife, but we have a preteen daughter that may help out slightly.
They have to be 16? Work with animals like that?
If that's the case, and she
I
may be helping,
I
sir.
seem to recall that when my kids were going out and volunteering at the animal shelter.
Different rules for
Yeah.
family members, though, at least in my industry.
I would think in a home-based business, that wouldn't be.
I don't know.
I'm just curious what it's gonna look like in there. I mean, I have retrievers and pointers and have for the last 30-something years, and they're in kennels. Until I just moved, they were on concrete pads, which I may do with one Labrador retriever cleanup every day, to shovel the solid and then dump the water bucket in the pen and scrub it out with a broom. So, you know, it's 2 gallons of water. What is it gonna look like in there? How big are the runs? I mean, are they gonna be on the concrete,
On
or are
a
you
flat,
gonna
if
have
it's
a
a
raised
garage, it's
mesh?
gotta be a flat surface, right? It's gonna encroach over, I mean,
I could see mopping working, but I'm just curious, are they gonna be on the concrete? You're gonna have chain link kennels for each one with a little door like my vet's office looks like? Or, I mean, what's it gonna look like in there?
We're gonna have a chain link type gate in the front. The walls themselves, the partitions, in order to keep the animals from seeing each other and causing stress with each other, could be opaque walls. So
Okay.
our current plan is to build single clay brick partitions in between, and then mount like a chain link gate to the front of that, and then these will run down each side of the garage, and then there will be a divider in the center that keeps dogs from seeing each other across that area. That's to lessen the stress that they go through, and also, you know, noise control. There's numerous reasons why you don't want to.
They're 2 by 5, 1 by, I mean, currently when you're mine, your little sketchings you've done so far, which I hope you've kind of gone that far.
They're about 3 by 5, and then we're looking at 2 of them being at the ends of the runs, looking at 2 maybe being double sized. So if we have a large animal, or if we have someone that maybe wants to board 2 animals together and understands the risks associated with that, they may be able to do that as well.
The current garage you're working with, you'll be able to fit up to 20 slots, kennels
Yes, sir.
there?
is there a demand for this already in place, or you already have some people waiting on you to do this, or is it something that you're speculating, that if you set it up and advertise that you can go from there?
It's primarily speculation, and that's why we are, you know, saying initially it's going to be small. We're not going to build not going to build support for 20 animals at first. We're going to start off with maybe 4 or 5 kennels. Once we can keep those filled pretty, most of the time, we will building on. As far as demand, I was previously working on Fort Gordon. I know a lot of the soldiers and civilians that have moved in have trouble getting their animals into boarding areas when they go on vacation and things like that. A lot of them have established customers and are always full. Have the same issues with storage around here. That's blow up around here.
Storage?
You're right about that.
We got plenty of storage.
Bring us a plan.
We got plenty of storage.
So that's
It's
two of the
coming.
things that I heard people say they had issues finding a lot of times is animal boarding.
All right, gentlemen, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. We may ask you to come back up.
All right, thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak either for or against this particular issue? Yes, sir. You were first, and ma'am, you were second.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, if I could point out to the planning commission, excuse me, the bottom of page 3 of the staff report, the top of page 4 is the health department's comments towards this review related, and particularly to your discussion with the applicant. She did indicate that based on the small scale, that would not require any septic system or improvements of the sort at this time. However, that should it be expanded, that may be required. So just so you're aware of that.
Expand it to what?
Expanded to a septic system. What I would,
Saying if the business is expanded to a certain point, they would.
So, I mean, their current narrative says 20, so that's what she's gonna go off of.
She's basing
So if it's
it off of-
beyond 20, that's when it would trigger, that's how it would appear.
So she's referencing the narrative.
Yeah.
I still don't believe, I'm on the Board of Health myself, and I still don't believe that the health department is gonna allow up to 15, 18, 20 dogs on a slab without some sort of a drainage system. I'm being contradictory about what's been said, but by me being there and knowing what happens when we have meetings, that's just not gonna happen.
Right? That being said,
Especially if there
sir,
were one complaint. That's
if you
all
give
it
us your
would
name
take.
and home address, please, sir.
Yes, my name's Tim Drennan. I live at 5953 Boulder Court, right next door.
Brennan,
Drennan,
Brennan, would you spell that for
Yes,
the
sir.
ladies, please?
Drennan. Thank you for all the questions you're asking, because I did a lot of research while are asking the questions, like adequate temperature control for the pets, adequate ventilation wasn't really covered, drainage, a suitable method for drainage, interior surface, how are they gonna be cleaned? How is the surface? What kind of surface is it? As far as sanitation, stuff has to go somewhere. 1 to 5 dogs is fine, but when it's open zoning, so to speak, with 20 dogs, that's something different. And I don't think there's really plans put in place to handle the 20 dogs. Because there are space requirements also. And this is all from the Georgia Department of Agriculture. A copy of it. But first of all, my master bedroom is 283 foot from that garage. And heavily wooded on a satellite
Head
view.
of the neighborhood. Point out where you are.
Um,
You can mark on
see
that.
that green?
Okay.
Yeah, right there. You see the little, in the backyard, there's a little place where my hot tub is, my 50-50 garden, no trees. And those pines that we're looking at are open pines that are all cleared out. So when we're talking about buffers, what is the definition of a buffer? From what I can see, a buffer should be designed to provide reasonable protection from adjacent neighbors from light, sounds, and other nuisance elements. The property owner shall be responsible for demonstrating this manner. Okay, so I have 3 dogs, 2 senior citizens, and a young one. Their full-time mission in life is to protect that whole backyard. And it's a chain link fence. So when they're walking strange dogs who already are gonna be under pressure because they're not at their own home, they're all gonna bark all the time. So that's what I'm gonna have to listen to, is dogs, whether they soundproof a garage or whatever. 20 dogs making noise, barking all the time is not what I call coming home to relax. What kind of impact is it gonna have on my property? So my wife called 2 appraisers. For me to sell my house next to a dog boarding place will have an effect on my property value. So who wants to live next to a dog boarding place, right? As far as in the area, there's 2 other dog boarding places. From what I look at, there's not a residence as close as mine. Dog boarding place. That's it.
Gentlemen, any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please come and give us your name and home address.
My name is Ivy Barnett. I reside at 5936 Boulder Court. I am the last resident on the court. I have resided in my home for 10 years. I moved from the city life of Martinez to the quiet, secluded rural area to get away from the city life. I have actually taken it upon myself to walk door to door. In my area, there are 7 residents on our street, and I have spoken individually to everyone on our street, and everyone is opposed to this facility opening. I have gotten all of our people to sign, with the exception of one person who would not open the door due to the COVID. She said she would not open. I also went to the street on Intermediate, and they are also opposed to this facility opening. The people, I have looked on our county maps online. The people that have lived on our road and also on Intermediate have lived there since the 70s, 80s, and 90s. One of the men that I talked to, Mr. Northcutt, is 80 years old. He has horses and he lives on Intermediate, which is directly across the street from the 5959. I've also spoken to people who live on Wrightsboro Road, so I just went to the immediate area. I did not go outside of our area. I did not feel a need to do so. So I have this that I can turn into Planning Commission to be scanned in.
Go ahead and give it to Mr. Sterling, if you would, please.
Also, I would like to say that I called our animal control because I have concerns about how the facility would also be cleaned. Our animal control cleans our facility with a pressure washer and also a hose. And we do have drainage so that they can clean the facility, because I feel like if they're going to have, how are they going to clean the kennels with just no water in their building? With the COVID and cleaning supplies being so low, Lysol wipes not being available, various cleaning supplies, dogs do make, as you all said previously, soiled messes. I worked for Columbia Veterinary Hospital for 26 plus years with Dr. Aubrey Garner, Dr. Diane Gaffigan, Marco Boerner, and it is located at 4285 Washington Road across from Publix before it did close down 3 years ago due to the economy and being bought out by a corporation. But our kennels there at Columbia Vet, we did have runs, and we did cleanse the runs with chlorhexidine, with hoses, and with bleach and various cleansers. It did also have the draining behind it. So I have seen over my various years in veterinary medicine and boarding animals, dogs, big and little, make very big messes, and you cannot clean them with a mop. You have to take those animals out of cages and kennels and actually scrub them, clean them, and I've never seen them once in my experience and tenure with a broom. We've actually had to get inside and scrub, re-scrub, and scrub again. So another concern is him saying that they're going to control the animals, the noise. You cannot control a dog when they are barking. Dogs bark, that's their nature. So in, 1 to 5 dogs, in an 800 square foot building, if you just go to Petco on adoption day, it's loud chaos. So I don't foresee them being able to control a dog barking. Plus, when you get an animal in a strange environment, they can be nippy if one gets off their leash. I have a 3-year-old grandson that resides with me. He plays, walk down the street, he runs. If one of those dogs gets off the leash, bites, if one of those strange dogs bites my grandchild or another child, an adult in the area, the closest veterinary facility is Wester in Thompson. They're not a 24-hour facility. That's 30 miles. That's 30 minutes from my home. Blue Pearl, which is an emergency clinic, which is a 24-hour facility, is near Topgolf, Alexander Drive. That's about 40 minutes, from my house in Harlem. If you need to go somewhere, you have to call animal control because of a dog bite. They're on call after hours. To me, it's not a good situation. I do understand that we are a county-maintained road. I live at the end of a court. Since the 2 signs were placed on Intermediate and Boulder, we have had more traffic coming down. I don't know if it's because of the sign and people are looking because of the planning sign. But when you do have a facility, they're going to be 24/7. During the holidays, you're also going to have more traffic coming down. I don't want the extra traffic. Like I said, I do understand it's a county-maintained road, but because Intermediate is already a cutoff road to Wrightsboro and Louisville, so we have extra traffic, so that would bring more traffic. So I would really like for y'all to reconsider bringing this into our area. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I just don't like the 5 to 20 dog open zoning policy. It has to be, I don't think this request is specific enough for the problems that it could cause. And the sanitary parts of it, I don't like. So that being the case, I'm gonna make a motion to disapprove RZ 21-02-01.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor to disapprove? Motion to disapprove carries 4-0. Mr. Butler, file RZ 210202.
Thanks, a request for rezoning, off Swint Road, currently zoned M1 and RA, a little bit of split zoning. Request is to rezone to R1 for residential use. There's a location of the property on Swint Road, which is right here. Again, it does go on both sides of the road and also abut I-20. Again, currently it is split zone. You see the M1 there and then also a little piece of RA that's there. The M1 is from the 70s when the county rezoned, I think it's 600 and some odd feet from I-20, the whole length of it for billboards. So we have quite a few properties that are zoned in this manner. And again, it shows aerial view of the site as well. And also the existing site, again, undeveloped rural area, looks very similar to what we've seen already this evening. And also the plat of the property. So one thing you'll see here, the future land use map does say this is neighborhoods. There is an employment activity center right here. You do have Greenpoint that we approved about a year ago, further down the road as well. So is there an argument for this to go R1? Sure, there is. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. However, if we go back to the zoning map, everything around this is RA. You can see here, I mean, everything on both sides of the interstate in some respects, outside of this guy here and Lysa South and a church. So staff is not going to recommend approval of the R1, but is recommending that it be changed to our approval of a rezoning to RA for the request. That includes staff recommendation.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions?
Does the client want RA? Or did the applicant, I mean, not client, applicant want RA?
So they asked for R1. We basically called and told them that, it wasn't going to work from our standpoint. They verbally said they were okay with that. If they're here this evening, you can ask them as well.
Okay.
This is a public hearing. Is the applicant here this evening? Yes, sir. Would you like to come forward and give us any additional information? Give us your name and home address.
Yes, my name is David Hutto. I live at 3801 Inverness Way. Yeah, we're fine with the RA. After I talked with Will, he said it'd probably be better for us to have the larger lots in that area, so I agree that we can accept it.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Yes, sir. Please come forward and give us your name and home address. What was your name one more time?
Alfonso Gibbs.
Yes, sir.
I guess just a couple of neighbors, and I just was wondering what was going to be, going to be a neighborhood, because like I think one of the young ladies said, we moved from Augusta to Harlem to get away from the neighborhoods and get to a rural area.
I believe RA would be a minimum of 2.5 acre lots.
That's correct.
So it would be similar zoning to what's there now. So, and with that being kind of a long, thin tract, it'll be a challenging rezoning. It'll probably be, honestly, larger acreage lots than probably the 2.5 acres. Would that be a safe assumption?
I would think so.
Okay. All right.
So about 5 acres per house, or?
I think a lot of it depends. We haven't seen a site plan for that, so a lot of it would depend on how he's gonna tie into the road. Is he gonna put a road through? Is it gonna be an easement to lots? I mean, there are a lot of questions he'll have to do, but.
Will
again,
that change the current zoning for neighbors that have horses and stuff like that, or we can?
No, this is just specifically for that tract, nothing else.
That's a similar zoning. RA is basically same type zoning.
Okay.
One other thing, when you're rezoning it from M1 to the residential zoning, that, I would think would be to your benefit, because you certainly don't want any light industrial type of stuff out through there.
Yeah, M1 is industrial, I mean, so if you look across the interstate at what's going on Nature's Way, right now it's zoned to duplicate that on your side. And so what the applicant is doing is actually giving it a scenario where it would be just residential.
Be beneficial to you, I would think.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I do have one question on this. What happens to the billboard leases there? Do those maintain M1, or do they convert over? I mean, I don't know if those are privately owned or if Lamar owns them and they have long-term leases, or they own them outright, or,
Is there one there?
That's awesome.
I can't remember if there's any along there or not.
I mean, if there's one there, that's a problem, but if there's not,
I can't,
well,
He would probably know. If
no
not,
billboards? Okay, all right, then I retract. But, all right.
good question, though.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak either for or against this particular rezoning? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to disapprove file RZ 210202 requested for R1 zoning and approve the rezoning from M1 to RA for the property located off Swint Road.
Do I hear a second?
that's a good motion. I second that.
I thought it was
Would you
all
like
on
the
us.
third? All right, motion's been made and seconded. Do I hear any discussion from anybody? Okay, all in favor? I guess, do we need two motions, all? Okay, all in favor, I guess, of
That was a-
rezoning to
That was a
to
whole.
RA.
that
You,
was-
you were masterful, if I do say so myself. Right, so the motion carries 4-0. Ms. Montgomery, we have two variances tonight, file VA 210201.
Yes, sir. This first one is a variance to our sign code at 457 Park West Drive, currently zoned C2 General Commercial. This property is located on the west side of Jimmy Dias, south side of Park West Drive. It's currently zoned C2 and is part of the Bel Air Road Corridor Protection Overlay District. You can see it's surrounded by commercial property in this interstate area. This is the area of the site. It is an existing pilot gas station. And this is the existing sign we'll be talking about. So this is the current sign. That sign previously looked like that. The applicants pulled a permit to reface this sign in September of 2020 that allowed them to change the sign faces only. This is a non-conforming sign in terms of the square footage of the sign face. Our code would allow them to have 187.5 square feet. They were at 395 square feet. This sign permit brought it down a little bit with the reface to 370.5 square feet. Still not in line with code, but we do allow them to reface existing signage. Unfortunately, when they went to do the actual work on the sign and got up there to do the reface, they did discover some structural damage to the sign. Both the contractors on site and our county inspectors who went out and looked at what was going on verified that it was a public safety hazard. Some of the welding had broken in the sign, so they had to actually dismantle the pole to do some repairs on it. In that process, the sign actually did get shorter. So it went from being 113 feet to about 105. So this is the now repaired sign. They have submitted engineered specifications for the work and the certification from the welder who did the work. That's all been reviewed by Development Services. They're comfortable that the repairs, meet building code and are now safe. So it's corrected the public safety issue of the sign. What the variance is for is to allow them to keep this existing sign face in place. Since that sign had deteriorated to the point of becoming a public safety hazard, it did lose its legal nonconforming status under our sign code. So to keep that sign face area in place as it's existing, they do need a variance approval. This gas station has been in existence since about 1991, so it's been there a little while. Most likely had this sign for most of that time. Said they did make the sign a little bit shorter with the work they did. It's still tall enough that it doesn't really impact your street view with your corridor protection overlay. And staff doesn't see any issues with allowing them to keep this existing sign. We therefore recommend approval with the conditions that the sign face is limited to what was permitted in 2020, and that this does not permit replacement of the sign if it deteriorates further and actually needs a complete structural replacement.
So to be clear, if they had gone up there and there was no structural damage, they had not found anything, it was fine, they would not be in front of us now because it would have just been refaced and they moved on with their larger sign.
That's correct.
I guess my question is, how did this get to this point where the thing sounds like it was about to come down?
I guess they don't go up there very often.
I mean, do we not, how did I miss that?
Walked into that one, Jim,
Yeah,
sorry.
I know. I'm used to that. But my point is, do we have any inspection requirements for signs like this over time?
We don't do repeat inspections on them. We do inspect new installation of signs. So all of our new signs that go up, pull a sign permit and then have inspections done through the construction process. When it was built, presumably around 91, we would assume, since that's when the business opened.
Doesn't sound like there was any refaces since
Yeah.
then, or if
So-
so, it's been a while since that's occurred.
We need to look at some kind of ordinance that every 10 or 15 or 20 years, we do a reinspection, particularly of the big signs like this.
I'll talk to the Development Services Division Director, and that's really a building code kind of issue, but from a public safety standpoint, that may be appropriate to consider, and I'll talk with him and see if that's something that we need to look at as part of our review of the codes.
Is there's an inspection process by the county when something like this goes up?
Correct, that when they pulled the building permit and did all the work, the county inspectors were there to verify, and then that's when the contractor went up and realized there was a problem, and our folks went up and confirmed that in fact was a problem, so they needed to fix it for public safety reasons. You don't want a 113-foot tall sign falling over onto
Put up right
dais.
initially.
Anything.
Yeah, anywhere.
You'd hope.
Well, a lot of times, we're having worked for AAA when I met my wife, but the way these poles are put together, they cut holes. The old way, back in the 70s and 80s, and when they set the pole inside the big one, the small one inside the big one, they just tack weld those holes in the
Right.
pole. That ain't enough. Especially a sign that big that's gonna blow in the wind.
Yeah, there's got a wind load.
Welded all the way around, and you should never have to go back and look at it. And that may be what had happened.
Sounds like there's
It
someone
had
in
the
the
holes
audience who
just
can
tacked in.
specify that.
And with that being said, is the applicant here this evening? Yes, sir. Come forward and give us some additional information, because we're all fairly ignorant, with the exception of Russell, with regards to signs.
Good afternoon, my name is 4195 Old Oak Trace and Cumming, so I took a drive down here. We do about 60, 70 projects to a pilot a year, and each time I even go and touch a site, look at it structurally, and that's exactly what happened on that first splice. There's supposed to be plug welds, slot welds, and plug welds. They were just tacked. And what happened was that inner ring that sits inside there had a crack in that as well that we did not know. So when we went to so I go and I visually inspect it, we get the engineer to give us engineer drawings, and we go up there, and when the welder got up there, and he's like, moving a little too much for comfort. We took it down that day and through the weekend. We were just immediately, pilot doesn't mess around. They're like, if there's an issue, fine. But that's exactly what happened, and we added more gussets to the second splice up on top. So that thing's not coming down now, but yeah, every site we touch, we come up, it's surprising. I even looked at one sign right outside my hotel room, and none of the slot welds are welded in a high-rise. I don't want to get that person in trouble, but I was going to talk to management about that, because that inner ring, that's what holds that bottom pipe to that and makes it one. None of those slot welds are welded. You're going to have the same problem. That's what.
Turn in the wind, too.
It doesn't.
So with your experience, do you think there's any credence to having inspections on all the time?
Absolutely.
You think the county's got the responsibility to do it?
I think the city should be doing it. I see them all over the place. Every sign I touch, even though Pilot's very pertinent about it, some of these things have been up 20, 30 years, okay? reimage program, but I look at that shit all the time. I just I shake my head at what I see. What they'll do is they'll tack weld everything and then they'll putty it, paint over it. So you might look, you might see it, but
Flexibility.
it's not correct. So you have to actually we have a CWI go up on every structure and give us an inspection report that goes to the engineer. Then we tell Pilot, this is what needs to be done to fix it. So this was just a drastic, I do it about 2 times a year, South Dakota and this one. Cracked and
This year?
this year. I get about 2 a year. But
It's early.
we get a call and we're like, you need to get out there now. Yeah.
You've had 2 in January so
Oh,
far this
no,
year?
2
Oh,
this past year.
okay.
This work was done.
Sounds to me like somebody needs to go back and see who put
I
I
wanted to
doubt
ask
we
that
have
question.
permit records from
Yeah.
91, but
And
we
who
I wanted to
inspected
ask that
Try.
question, but I just held my breath. I kind of think
you
I
weren't
probably
chairman.
know.
You weren't chairman then, were you?
No, I wasn't chairman in the 90s. I was chairman in the 80s. I do know who did a lot of pilots' work though, as well as you, sir.
Yep. Place where I learned about science.
Gentlemen, do you have any other questions?
Is this, is,
Check. 4195
Thank you for the information too, by the way.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak either for or against this particular variance? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
I make a motion to approve with conditions, file VA 210201, increasing the allowed sign face area at 457 Park West Drive.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Approved carries 4-0.
Are
Ms.
any
Neal,
more, are
fine.
any more meetings gonna be bilingual? I just need to know. That he spoke.
Ms. Neal, file VA 210202.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a variance to section 90-53, list of lot and structure requirements at 4181 Mulliken Road on 1.23 acres, currently zoned R1, single-family residential. This shows the location of the site. It's a flagpole lot off of Mulliken Road. And this shows the zoning of the site, currently zoned R1, as are most of the properties around them, and then you also have Riverside Middle School right here. And this shows the aerial of the site, the plat of the site, and the existing site from Mulliken Road. And then the applicants are proposing to build an addition to the existing residence, consisting of a covered porch, an addition, and another garage. And they're requesting for them to be 10 feet from these 2 property lines, the north and the west property lines. The subject's property is oddly shaped lot off of Mulliken Road, as you can tell. It has 2 rear property lines and 2 side property lines, rear, side. And there's no way to build along the frontage, which is the driveway right there. The required setbacks in R1 for the rear are 25 feet from the property lines, which requires them to meet that 25-foot foot setback from these 2 property lines. And they also have a septic tank and drain field right here on the property. That kind of makes it to where they can't build in that area. The proposed addition is located near the driveway side of the residence for easy access to the proposed garage and the other addition. And the applicant's neighbors at 4177, which is here, they also share the driveway, which kind of goes like that. Their house faces right here. They've requested for them to build it as proposed so that they're not facing an addition onto the house. And with Riverside Middle School's recreation fields are all right here, so they're not impacting them at all on that side. Therefore, they don't have any impact on either of their neighbors. Staff recommends approval.
Gentlemen, any questions, staff? Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing. Is the applicant here? Yes, would y'all like to come forward and give us any additional information? All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak either for or against this particular variance? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion to approve, deny, or to table.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve file VA 210202, reducing the setbacks to 10 feet from the property lines at 4181 Mulliken Road.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion to approve carries 4-0. We have no legal matters tonight. Do we have any staff or commissioner comments?
Just one, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to update the planning commission and those members of the public that are here. The Vision 2035 update is out for public comment for the month of February. It is online at the county website. Get a chance, please do take a look at it. It will obviously directly impact all properties in the county. Again, it's an update of the comprehensive plan. It's our vision document for the county. It gives kind of the vision and direction of how the county kind of developed over the past number of years, what we look towards the future. For the most part, I think kind of fair to say that it's,
Dry?
well, I wouldn't start it later at night, but you know, you could do that. That's
Almost
an option.
100 pages long.
No, it's, the meat of it's 50,
55,
53,
yeah.
55.
I thought there were 360
That-
something.
That's the appendices.
that-
Those matter but don't matter.
That's right.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, it is an important document. It does provide the vision for the direction of the county, at least for the next 5 years, but, you know, beyond that as well. So if you get a chance, please do take a look at that. You do have the ability to online pin it with comments on various sections, ask questions. We do get that, Will and I get those emails so that we can not only, one, look at them, but also respond if there's a specific question or an answer that needs to be provided. And we will take that information as it comes in and add that to the list. We will meet with the steering committee shortly after. Well, we're going to have the public hearing scheduled for March 4th here at the Planning Commission, and then meet with the steering committee, send it to BOC for their blessing, and then on to DCA for approval, and then final adoption
This
before
is
June
something we have
1st.
to do by state mandate?
We do. It's this is the required 5-year update to the state mandated 10-year plan. So this was originally adopted in 2016. This would be the 5-year update to that.
And we've been working on that for,
About a year. About a year.
okay, so there's been a
Little
lot
over
of work gone into it. Our committee's probably, what, 35, 40 people?
It is, it is. We've met, 5 or 6 times with the steering committee. We've had a number of public outreach, opportunities over the past year. Some in person, some mostly distance, several both, in person and, we also did online surveys and, so we've had a fair number of, public comments to date. This is a real good kind of down the stretch chance to, get your comments in and last chances.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Comments? Okay, do we have any public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Adjourn carries 4-0. It's 7:08. Who won?
It's not me. I'm at 6:22.
Any of us related?